All right, everyone, you love it. We love it. We're back, and we're going to be bringing you guys some Overwatch action here in just a moment for the ESL Go4 EU Overwatch Cup number 14. We're going to go ahead and start the Overtalk, and to join me in discussing the game, discussing the match, and discussing some theory, we are going to have Scribe. How you doing?
Not too bad, dude. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It was a decent break. Got a chance to definitely compose myself, get some more water, and wake up a little bit more. It's only been about a 2 hour cast, and we're already into the quarterfinals. It's gone through pretty quickly. And already, I mean, honestly, some of the teams that have been knocked out have been pretty surprising. There has been like some upsets that were mentioned earlier. Omar did take out Redskin, who was a finalist in the last Go4 Cup. And the quarterfinals are shaped up to be teams, for the most part, that we would have expected. Random 6 ended up losing to Dark Horse, though, so they'll be playing Gatekeepers below in the quarterfinal below us. Lamix is still waiting for their opponent. We are watching Ormar versus T for Tilt. And then down at the bottom, Team Exoplan will be taking on Bikini Beach Esport. So, names that we expect for the most part, but some names you wouldn't honestly expect if you've been watching the scene in the T2 scene for EU a little bit more intently.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, Omar upsetting Redskins is actually huge. The Redskins was not doing too badly themselves, and of course, Random Six. Oh man, the big name that we cast last game going down to Dark Horse, and then the Dark Horse Gatekeepers match, which I think is a pretty good match on a whole. And then I don't think we have results for Crusadude and Plain Ducks yet, but both those teams, especially Crusadude, definitely looking super good. I think they played Reason. They played Flares yesterday in the Go2 Gamers Cup to qualify for the stage 2, and unfortunately, we're not able to.
Yeah, it and just to not go the best in that respect, but at the same time, this is another opportunity. That's kind of the nice thing about this setup. I mean, for those of you that are watching the course players, I mean, there is a lot of opportunity on just the weekends to be getting a lot of tournament practice in. I mean, with the new Gosu Gamers setup, you of course have all the way up until the round of 16 to be only playing teams that, well, they're good teams for sure. Open teams cannot. They're not always bad teams, but you're not going to be playing your Reuniteds. You're not going to be playing your Dignitas, or you're not going to be playing any teams out of the gate that you're going to have to worry about getting knocked out early on. You can have that opportunity to get up to the round of 16, and then of course the ESL Go4 Cups. A lot of the top teams have kind of stepped away from because they usually only play in one. I mean, usually you will see a T1 team step in for one of the cups. LG likes to do that back at the beginning of it. Reunited used to step in only for 1 week, and if they won, they play in the finals. They try to collect that 900 or 600 euro and then move on. But at the same time, this is just a great opportunity for tier 2 teams to make a big name for themselves.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And this is actually kind of very interesting as we kind of about different teams, tier 2 teams entering into, I guess, like the larger scenes and the big tournaments, especially with stuff like Ghost Gamers Weeklies, is that a lot of these, these strong teams might not have immediate access to some of the VODs or some of the coverage of some of these tier 2 teams. So I think that is actually a very important factor that especially we haven't really, I guess we haven't really seen a huge example of this yet, but let's say, in an open qualifier, like a huge for a major or something like that, a tier 2 team pulls out some composition that, we're all familiar with because we code cast them, but other people are not so familiar with. That potentially could be a huge issue, and then that could be something like that surprises the top team, and that might be something that they reflect on and they decide to go back and look at their VODs more. So a lot of opportunity for tier 2 teams to kind of show themselves here, and of course a lot of roster pickups. I think Tempo Storm picking up the old NG Northern Gaming Red roster recently, in addition to their Australian squad and a bunch of other lineups that are still looking for teams.
I have to echo that there, and I also want to kind of get to the sorry, let me go ahead and ready up here. Ready here. Let me make sure. Okay, I did not get messaged by any other casters. Just want to make sure that if there was other languages that want to get into this game, that they could. But what I wanted to say is that I honestly think that's kind of already happened. I mean, with Reason Gaming, they won the Insomnia LAN. They won. Or they've been doing very well for themselves in general in the Gosu or in the Go4 events, and then in the Gosu Gamers, they ended up taking out FaZe, and FaZe, very strong team in their own right, very, very, very strong, but not really ready for the way that Reason Gaming played the 3-3, or specifically, they've said, and they're very open about it in social media, that they feel weaker against it, but at the same time, I mean, it's a pretty good example, I think, already of a team going ahead and taking a match against honestly, FaZe you would not expect to lose to Reason Gaming, to put it probably the best way in that respect.
Yeah, considering FaZe is one of those teams that has shot up like Fnatic and is, is making a claim for being one of the better teams. I think are they still in EU? But I think they're actually.
They're 4-2, so they are primarily EU, but they are. I think there are maybe rumblings to go ahead and get a gaming house to set up, but yeah, they are primarily EU right now.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think I would put them easily in honestly a top 4 spot in EU, and this is with the likes of Reunited, Rogue, Misfits as well. I think honestly they take over that 4th spot pretty convincingly just because of the how strong their team is on paper and how much what the aim, the DM, the fragging ability brought to that team, and I think that they're only going to get better because they're a super young team still. So a lot of potential in some squads like that. So yeah, I totally agree with you. The fact that Reason Gaming is able to take a very strong series over them, it kind of reveals maybe some weaknesses on the side of more top ranked teams, that they're probably scrimming the same exact style. Maybe they're not seeing as much variation because no one wants to show their cards for E-League, so that could be something to look forward to.
Well, the defense proud of their accomplishment here as they are going to go ahead and set up to defend. Zekor is going to be picking up the Lucio. Perky is going to be picking up a Zarya. We have EPZZ going to be picking up the Zenyatta. Rat going to be picking up a McCree. Axel on the Reaper. And then the Reinhardt going to be picked up for Latex. And that is Omar as the offense of Tifa Tilt gets going here. And, of course, get a chance to get a little bit of the introductions.
Yeah, on the other side, we have Mausium on the Zenyatta. Chubb.
Unfortunately, your mic cut out there right after Chubbs, but it looks like they are maybe going to go for an initiation right now. As, yeah, they are going to go ahead and get onto the point. They're going to go ahead and take the fight. Charge going to go through, and it looks like Perky's going to take that, but Perky did self-bubble, I believe. So absorbing a lot of that damage, it's going to prevent a lot of the threat to him, but in the background, Flash War is going to end up taking out the Rat. After Rat gets himself a double kill, looks like maybe hoping EPZZ get another kill, and that should clean up the rest of this offense. The defense getting enough of the trades to go ahead and work it out for them, and not a good look here for Tifa Tilt to start it off.
Yeah, for some reason I felt like they were trying to go in for a fast engage, but they just don't have enough of the units or the champions for that. They don't really have a fast push engagement. They're more about picking off targets, securing their flanks, and gaining ground slowly that way. So maybe they need to change in champions that they're willing to take that risk. But right now it's all about winning the initial fight. McCree needs to do so much on the offense.
Yeah, it definitely, and Earthshatter from the defense actually going to do a lot here as it ends up hitting on almost, I think it was a total of 3. Hexus did avoid it. Deadeye, no, nothing for that, unfortunately. Did light up multiple skulls, but not channeled long enough, and of course they did go ahead and use like Wraith Form, using walls and stuff to dodge the damage, and that should be the end of Hexus. He does get the kill onto Axel, but at the end of the day, that kill might not end up mattering too much. There are 2 members of the defense, or 1 member of the defense, Axel, who's going to have to make a long run, but the offense is going to have to get up and going really quickly to get that to actually work out. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste, and just unfortunately unfortunate for Hexus to die that late.
Yeah, honestly, they just don't have enough of the parts. I mean, luckily they have a lot of ultimates now, so maybe this situation will be a little more promising for the offense itself. But right now, man, they're just not much is happening in the terms of they can't really push through this defense round. They're very wary. They're waiting for their team to cut up, and maybe they're going for a boost.
Overall, the Graviton Surge going to hit on 2. They immediately pull out the Transcendence to cancel it out. That Blossom going out from Flashor, not doing too much, but Rat, he's getting a lot of damage done already. He gets himself a double kill with the Deadeye, and the Deadeye from, well, Hexus hasn't been really accessed, and this is just a great defense coming out over and over from Omar, but the charge comes out as Chubbs is not giving this up. Chubbs on low HP says, I am not going to lose this match, at least not like this. We are going to take this first point. We are going to go ahead and get into the streets phase. And the defense, well, they don't want that to happen. Charge goes out from Latex to try to stop that. There's a Transcendence as well, and with the Graviton Surge holding them together, it's going to get the Transcendence healing everyone up, and it looks like the defense might have actually gotten onto the point to fight this out. Earthshatter was available. They did use it. And I don't know if it's going to be enough here. Tifa Tilt not giving up with it quite yet. Little Bow and teammates trying to fight it out. There is a Death Blossom being ripped out here by Axel. Axel gets himself 1 kill before going down to Little Bow. And we switch over to Flash Orb, but that's the wrong target. Is Little Bow and team. Well, it's kind of just been this awkward engagement scrub, and neither team has really wrestled control of this last tick. Maybe the defense has gotten it, though.
Yeah, honestly, this is kind of where the offense really starts wearing down on defense, just because their walk is so much shorter that they can get back reinforcements so much quicker. So even though it seemed pretty even, the fact is that they were dying and they're taking an additional like 10 seconds to run over. Definitely affected that last minute, but they were able to stall for a decent amount of time. 3 minutes remaining on the clock for this streets phase is a relatively short amount of time, and they can hold up here, dress the flanks, and be able to force them to check corners and force them to move slowly. I think it'd do well, but man, Axel getting taken out so early is not a good sign.
Not at all. They need to get some good momentum going and some good ultimate management or ultimate advantage going for themselves. Sitting at decent charge, but so is the defense. Is there any specific ultimates that you think will decide this? I mean, I think of Earthshatter and Graviton Surge, of course, but is there any, how you think this fight's going to break down in that respect? It's going to be an ult showdown.
Yeah, honestly, it's all about having defensive ultimate to counteract Axel right now. I mean, it's fine to wait out this dead. I don't burn anything crazy here, and obviously getting taken out is a super good sign, taking out one of their initial DPS dealers. But right now on the offense, they just don't have a lot of DPS, so all defense has to rely around is not getting caught out, not offering the offense an opportunity to follow up with some other damage, maybe get some, some of that crowd control in, and they need to play safe in that aspect. But they need to not group together, maybe have one or two people specifically sit in the flank so they don't get caught by a huge Graviton Surge from Littlebow. But they have a lot of time to react. They have a defensive Earthshatter in case they do get caught out, so they can at least mitigate some of the initial damage.
And they do have the Trank, they do have everyone has both the defensive ultimates, so it's going to come down to supports here. Who's going to have the better ultimates? Both Graviton Surge, both Transcendence. And there's going to be a little later one from EPZZ, so the defense will have that healing for a little bit longer. That could make a big difference as Latex gets charged by Chubbs. But Chubbs is going to be the one who ends up falling, of course, because of that Transcendence, keeping Latex very high on HP. And now he's going to go ahead and rip out the Earthshatter. The Flashbang was there to attempt to stop it, but it wasn't soon enough. The charge comes through as well. Latex just charging through like a bull in a china shop. Every member of the offense falling. And the ultimates, well, defense definitely committed a lot more to go ahead and stabilize there, so that is a good sign for the offense. But the time is not what the offense is wanting to look at right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're feeling super rushed right now. They need to make sure Axel is the closest person to get to an ultimate right now, but right now, EPZZ needs to get like a Transcendence on relatively quickly in order to make room for Axel, just to make room for them. That's kind of like what the supports need to do right now. Give room for your DPS to do a lot more work, and unfortunately, if Rat is able to, pick up some more targets here, that could be a definitely
this Death Blossom from Flash Ori came in the flank. They were ready for it. 3K. He almost makes it a 4K, but it's good enough. EPZZ will end up going down, and now Perky, well, you see that he's just absolutely surrounded and eaten by the offense. And flanking, you were talking a little bit about it with Axel, and you were talking about getting up that Death Blossom, but Flashor says, look, I have a Death Blossom, I can flank, and he gets a huge one off, and that's exactly what the offense needs to seize tempo.
Yeah, and 17 seconds left. They might be looking to challenge this. I do think they have the ult. They actually have a lot of the ultimates. Two challenges that they need to get onto there, stop the progression on the cart, and their Graviton Surge catches them out, but that's fine. They can mitigate so much damage. They make sure they have to follow up from after this fight.
Axel attempting his own Death Blossom. It's not good enough. It gets Flashbang canceled, and that's not good at all here for the defense. Can the offense continue this push? Maybe not. EPZZ, he gets himself a double kill after Perky. The Deadeye comes out from Hexes, but it needs to be the best Deadeye he's ever had, and I don't think that's going to happen. That is going to be a hold, and T for Tilt unable to convert, unable to get into the Foundry section nonetheless here. And unless their defense is of equal caliber, this is not a good boding series here as Ormar. They're looking like a very strong team right now, Scribe. Very, very strong defensive performance.
I agree, and that honestly, that's actually kind of the part that sucks, because the offense blew a decent amount of ults on that first that push to get them to that checkpoint site. Because of that, and they had no time left, all the defense had to do was Stella until overtime, burn their like 3 or 4 ultimates, and just clear them because they haven't hit the second checkpoint yet. Their walk is actually extremely long from that respawn into that specific Foundry area. So all they need to do is, hey, all we have to do is take this fight. If we win, you have no way to come back. If anything, you guys are going to be super staggered, and we can just repeat the process, and eventually overtime will run out.
Very well said. And I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head about this idea that they were just bleeding the offense, and the offense was almost running into it. I mean, that's part of the job of the offense, is that you want to be getting into and this is something that you can kind of start to delineate between T1 and T2 teams. A good T1 team that's feeling their game and is confident and is playing as a team is on the offense very, very few times going to be playing a trickle type offense. And you did see it at the end there work out for the offense, but you want to be getting together, you want to be going for a hard engage, you want to be executing the fight. If it doesn't go well, disengage / die out, reset, and get another fight going. And the offense just didn't feel that clean script that it could have been.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, and that's kind of like where tier 2 teams can have the opportunity to stand up or make progressions in there. Is you have to think about this entire game not just as one battle to win, but you have to think about it as continuations of okay, how do we lead up to this next fight, or how do we build ultimates, or what is our game plan going on here? So that's kind of something we will have to look into in the future. But man, on the offense right now, there is a lot of potential for dive comps. It could be something where they could attack the point very quickly, catch the defense off guard, and maybe take them for a ride.
That's going to be the case, is they're going to go in with the Winston. They're going to go ahead and initiate, bubble him up. He's going to drop his own bubble, and the initiation comes out from Axel as well. But Little Bow plus Flash are already going to get themselves a kill as they take out Latex, and that's exactly what they need to start this off. They have to have a good defensive beginning. They can't afford to go into the streets phase this early, as that would put so much mental pressure on them to hold for every point on... Well, the entire streets, basically, they'd have to hold. I mean, it's just a rough situation. Phrased it poorly, but the point is still there. Defense needs to get something going, but this is just not that. It's not that right now. The offense is getting the picks that they need. Latex and Perky, after Latex comes back, ends up getting himself a kill. Hexus does take out Latex, but Winston's the one hero. You're okay to continue to lose. Zakor will end up taking out Chubbs, and they lose Axel, and that's a big pick, as they did lose EPCZ, but he's already back in the fight. We switched over to him, but that's Hexus lighting up, getting a huge number of kills. Technically 3, and not only huge number, but also a very important set, as he not only takes out the high energy Zarya, but he also takes out a support. Critical play there coming out of Hexus.
Yeah, Hexus has his ultimate right now and has the opportunity to basically use that to, defeat it. But this big engage is all honestly this whole fight is going to be about counter drop the beat right now. But Axel takes down Chubbs, easy peasy, takes down Riskin, Perky takes down Flash, or Hexus has a return kill on FC. But man, that Graviton Surge really late in the fight keeps them all together, but does not contain Axel, who still has his Dragon Blade up, able to clean up the fight and hopefully take this point to the street phase.
And that's not that's the opposite of what we were talking about. It needs to happen here for the defense now. 4 minutes and 45 seconds to just take the streets section. It may sound like a little bit less time, but at the end of the day in Overwatch, you can basically think about 2 fights per minute. The offense has plenty of time to wear down the defense to gain ultimate advantage, and I'd really like to see them play that long game. I mean, yeah, they can win faster, but there's no reason to play it super risky. The defense should have some ultimates coming up, and they do have that Earthshatter Death Blossom, but how would you like to see the offense play this out here?
Honestly, just keep it simple. Keep your win conditions with Axel, man. Check your corners are behind you guys. Use your Graviton Surge to your advantage, and maybe they don't even need it right now, but man, Flash was going for the big flank, and that's the part that as a flank, you need to communicate with your team. You have to tell your team, hey, don't get caught out, play defensively.
No.
And that's
Team kill Horn, that just enough said. Complete wipe, just not going at all well for them. I mean, the Graviton Surge was all that was needed, and Flashor's flank. It's going to be rough here for the defense to get another attempt.
it just came too late. I mean, Flasher, you need to have... Oh, man, takes out Flasher again, and that's not a great look for anyone. That's not enough DPS left on the screen. That reverse Earth Shatter taking so much damage, and that's the cap. That's game one.
I mean, it feels awkward to say it the way that we're saying it, but the honest truth is, you know, it felt awkward from the side of T for Tilt. It kind of felt like they fell over a little bit, and, you know, it's hard because at the end of the day, maybe King's Row isn't strictly their best map, but, you know, you could consider banning it. It's not entirely a bad decision, but it's just awkward. It didn't really ever feel like they dictated the pace. I mean, like you said, Flasher was a little late on that one flank, but I don't really know what to say. Is there anything you really want to emphasize there for the side of T for Tilt? I mean, what do you think went the most wrong for them, I guess, is the best way to start this topic.
I wouldn't say anything went specifically wrong. They just weren't playing towards the enemy's win condition. I mean, one moment you kind of see a Genji, and this is what I'll say, right? They actually were up 6-5, I think, in the initial engagement. But the thing is, they just couldn't capitalize on it. By the time they capitalized it, by the time they were able to fend off the offensive attack, the offense already had gotten enough ultimates, had gotten the Lucio ultimate to go for the next engage, to push forward, and because they're a dive comp, inherently having that Lucio ultimate is so strong. So it's just like, I don't think it was anything they did individually incorrectly. I just think they needed to adapt to the composition. They had to realize, well, they're going to engage on us. We need to play safe, or we need to stall out, or we need to at least regroup or take advantage of the fact that we're up. If you're up 6v5 against an engage comp, you can definitely counter engage. I think that's where the engage comps are the weakest. They require almost having that initial man advantage, because inherently a lot of their tanks, a lot of their DPS targets are relatively squishy and don't really have much to provide, once they're dead or once they get like CC'd or something like that. So I think there's definitely an opportunity for that to for them to have acted on that. But unfortunately, they just got clean through the streets phase, and their offense wasn't good enough, so they kind of left themselves with very little room for.
All right, it looks like we are going to have a slight delay here going into this next match. We will go ahead and switch it over to the waiting screen here, but it is going to be a unfortunate issue with the anti-cheat program. We will go ahead and get that sorted. Of course, the players will be contacting the admins, and we'll get that figured out. But once that gets figured out, we'll get right into the next game. But it's just. I to emphasize what you were getting at, I mean, the engage comp with Winston, I mean, the whole point of Winston is to trade off with the support. At the end of the day, it's, yeah, every hero wants to live, but if you're going to be playing that engage comp, you want your Winston to die for a kill or two. And then every single trade ends up being in a position where eventually the offense has that shorter respawn. And it really just, they never took full advantage of it. It felt like on their offense and on their defense, they kind of got taken advantage of by it. They lost the tempo, and I mean, a lot of the better teams I've seen also like the setups. It just feels awkward. It feels like they're playing honestly, and I mean maybe I'm a little bit biased because I've been watching some higher skill scrims a lot lately, but it feels like they're a little bit behind on adapting to what's going on with what should be better in this patch. I feel like they're not going towards the direction of what Kings Row is best at. Neither team pulled out Farah, and yet both teams had McCree and Yada. That's true. But at the same time, if you want to give your Genji space, you want to give your Reaper space, or you're going to run a McCree, I don't know if you should be running a Reaper with that per se. It depends on how you work your comp, but it's just interesting to see that they are just so intent on going with what was working before. And that's understandable because it's it's early on it's early on in the patch, and it's about winning the tournament matches. But it's interesting to see just no adaptation really in that respect.
Yeah, and that's kind of the tough part. That's kind of like where the meta shifts kind of hurt a lot of teams, especially if your team doesn't have a projectile player, right? Like Farah has been out of the meta for a relatively long time, and I mean, I wouldn't say that Farah is an absolute necessity in this patch. I think that's actually team to team. I think there's different preferences for different teams. I'm on the side of where I think Farah is actually extremely strong in this patch, especially if she can stay alive and display so much damage and you dominate the fact that she has air supremacy if your other team's not running a Farah to counteract that, right? So I feel like inherently there are a lot of different options you can potentially run. That's just I think a preference at the end of the day. If you haven't practiced it, not a lot of teams have even practiced time bank in terms of escort maps and everything. So they might be sticking with something they feel comfortable with, maybe an older style or something like that. So I don't really fault them for what happened here, but I do fault them for the fact that they just weren't able to coordinate with what they had, and I think that's even more frustrating.
Yeah, no, it is a frustrating proposition. And to go ahead and update you guys, unfortunately, we are having a little bit of a situation with the anti-cheat. One of the players is having issues with it, and in general, what has been stated, what I have believed, or at least I have seen to be stated, is that the players do need to play with it for this event. There have been basically enough of the players are not having issues that it is just something that the players need to sort out. So we'll see what ends up happening here with this, and whether or not this ends up happening. But we'll figure it out with it, and we'll keep you guys updated with this information. But once that's all sorted out, guys, we can get into a match or get into another quarterfinals. And it was looking like definitely Ormar having a lot of honestly, coming out of the gate stronger, and that's. It's hard to go into the second map with that much of a defeat in some respects. Like, it really becomes difficult to really pull yourselves up from the bootstraps, for lack of a better term. And you do need to be able to reset and go into the next match mentally, not mentally clean, but mentally, level, mentally stable, so that you don't make those mistakes continuously, so the mistakes don't continue pile on from, last game we made this mistake, well, we're thinking about it, so we made it again kind of situation.
Yeah, honestly, that honestly happens a lot, especially when bringing long-term games, and it's something that mentally, I think a lot of teams haven't reached that point where we need to necessarily have that mental fortitude anymore. But it's a lot about tilt, man. If you lose that first game in a 3-game set and you just can't adapt from it, and you can kind of see it here right now, it's just even in talking about the wider anti-cheat itself, that's just causing a lot of tilt in your team. If your team is just feeling like when we need the FPS drops, you're making excuses for everything, you're not looking at your own play, it could be something you come into second game very frustrated, and that could reflect very negatively.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and double check or double message the admin to make sure, because it looks like, unfortunately, they're having troubles contacting the admin. But, yeah, you have to, you really do have to be able to reset in those situations. And unfortunately, I'm gonna have to leave you to the wolves here for a second while I message the admin to get this all sorted out and moved along a little bit quicker here.